institutions and private sector companies. Businesses have been able to get involved in training, participate in curriculum development, and provide work experience for students and graduates. Advance has partnered with several private sector companies in Jamaica to open up opportunities for students, including Grace Foods, JP Foods, and Phase 3, which provided internships for advanced students. Hydro Gardens of Jamaica participated in a student immersion site visit called Spark Day, and the JMMB Joanne Duncan Foundation provided support to advance entrepreneurship training program. Collaboration with the private sector is important to ensure workforce development programs succeed and create local value over time. However, for many higher education institutions in the region, working with the private sector is a new approach to demonstrate the relevance to the economic development of their countries. Forums like this one today are important avenues and opportunities for the private sector community to open and help these institutions understand the corporate space and its priorities in relation to workforce and industry sector development. These exchanges can aid higher education institutions understand how to better structure collaborations for mutual benefit and also advertise their own skills and services to private sector industries. In our experience, common benefits that have come out of these collaborations have included bridging the gap between graduate skills and employers' needs to reduce youth unemployment, have a better prepared labor force, and increase companies' productivity and competitiveness. An example of this has been in Egypt, where USAID introduced competency-based specializations to the technical education system and developed market-driven curricula programs with the private sector, securing 32,000 jobs and 19,000 internships for technical school graduates and job seekers. These collaborations can also foster innovation in emerging industries by supporting high technology activities. In Brazil, for example, policymakers have encouraged collaboration to accelerate the catching up of certain sectors that are lagging on technological competencies. Lastly, there might be opportunities for higher education institutions to overcome funding constraints by having access to alternative funding and resources provided through private sector partnerships. But this is also an opportunity for the private sector to leverage resources from higher education institutions, like physical spaces for activities, research capabilities, and access to experts in a wide range of fields. In El Salvador, industry university clusters have been created between higher education institutions and industry with support from government agencies to develop demand-driven educational programs and research informed by industry needs. I encourage the private sector to engage and collaborate with higher education institutions as they are win-win opportunities that can be explored, while also creating impact in the economic development of local communities and potential prospects for employability of young people. Thank you.
You just heard from Jamie Salazar, Youth and Workforce Development Specialist with USAID. Thank you so much. Earlier, I mentioned a few things about Advance. Our next speaker, Kirsten Gallison, Regional Director with the Advance Program, will deliver remarks and give an overview of Advance.
Good afternoon. On behalf of FHI 360, it is a pleasure to join you virtually for this learning forum. My name is Kirsten Gallison. I'm the Regional Director for the Advanced LAC Regional Workforce Development Program. And I'm so glad we have an event centered around this topic to share, learn, discuss the importance of collaboration between the private sector and tertiary education institutions, and also kind of look for ways that employers can better prepare students for the world of work. Fostering alliances between the private sector and tertiary education has really been a pillar for the advanced program, which has worked in Guatemala, Honduras, and currently is working in the Dominican Republic and here in Jamaica. Jamie mentioned some of the benefits to different stakeholders of these partnerships and how it really is a win-win opportunity. And we also like to think of this collaboration as a win-win-win or a triple win opportunity because it benefits the private sector, the education system, and the students. So while businesses gain more skilled workforce, the institutions gain a better alignment with the labor market, and the students gain the skills they need to enter the workforce as well as employment, among a myriad of other benefits. I wanted to share a few examples of the creative alliances sparked by the advanced program. So starting in Honduras, Advance supported a private university, USAID, to secure a partnership with a multinational corporation called Manpower Group. Through this partnership, the program strengthened the university's career services department to better prepare the students for the labor market. Also in Honduras, an investment conglomerate, Terra Group, committed to supporting students from the National Autonomous University of Honduras, UNA, by including the food and beverage students and their own businesses within their entrepreneur catalog. And this was a platform that was visible to Terra's clients, as well as other companies looking to invest. And then the partnership continued through the pandemic, and together they designed and implemented a virtual certificate in entrepreneurship, so that with a focus on gastronomy, so that these students who were not able to complete their in-person practicum requirement were able to graduate on time. In Guatemala, Advance fostered a collaboration between the Pan American University, or PANA, and a private company named Dupli. And this was to carry out an innovative virtual job fair also during the pandemic. And it connected students to concrete employment opportunities after graduation. Over 200 students attended the fair and registered on a platform where they could create their own profiles, highlighting their potential to potential employers, their technical and soft skills. A total of 32 businesses participated in that fair, and it highlighted over 300 job opportunities. And in Jamaica, there are several more examples, in addition to the ones already mentioned by Jamie. Advance helped develop partnerships with Branson Center, MLR, SMC Group, and CB Group to provide scholarship students with valuable internships in their industries. And we also collaborated with Taijul Company Limited to host another one of those Student Spark Days. So I look forward to hearing from our speakers today about these exciting alliances and opportunities in Jamaica. And I would also like to thank USAID, private sector partners, partner institutions for supporting the Advance program and for helping create opportunities for the youth in Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten, for that overview of the Advance program. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached to our presentation segment, and our very first presenter is none other than Mrs. Andrea Dempster Chung. She's the co-founder and executive director of Kingston Creative. Over the past 20 years, she has held senior roles in strategic development and project management with the government of Jamaica, Digicel, Grace Kennedy, among others. She has managed the arts portfolio for the British Council in Jamaica, where she developed strategy and implemented key projects in film, literature, and visual arts. She's a business consultant and has supported creative entrepreneurs across the island. She was also featured in Forbes magazine as one of 10 women leading the charge for a sustainable future for the Caribbean. Mrs. Dempster Chung will present a case study on the creative industries and career opportunities in this sector for Jamaican youth. But before we welcome Mrs. Dempster Chung to the stage, let's learn a little bit more about Kingston Creative, a movement to transform downtown Kingston through arts.
Hi, my name is Andrea Dempster Chung, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of Kingston Creative. I want to share with you a little bit about the work that Kingston Creative does. Kingston Creative is a non-profit charity arts organization founded in February 2017. We were incorporated in 2019, and we believe in collaboration. We work with a team of public, private, and third sector entities in a partnership to empower creative people and transform downtown Kingston. We want to develop a vibrant and inclusive art district and a creative hub for training and development, and in the long term, achieve sustainable national development by growing our creative economy. Over the past 3 years, Kingston Creative and its team of 100 volunteers have created a movement to transform the city and the lives of local creatives. To create a healthy creative ecosystem, we hosted public art events like the Art Walk, the Meetup, and Market Street that have brought thousands of visitors and commerce into downtown. The organization also opened an artisan collective store and a co-working space and digital studio called the Creative Hub in 2020. Everything that we do through partnership and collaboration with the public, private, and third sector. A huge thanks to all of our partners in helping us to make Kingston the creative capital of the Caribbean.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here to present a case study on creative industries and career opportunities. So in my own career, I have been a project manager, a structural engineer, a business strategist, and an entrepreneur. My most recent stint has been in the creative industries, leading an arts nonprofit and charity organization. Now at Kingston Creative, we work with stakeholders from public, private, and third sector to achieve our vision of making Kingston the creative capital of the Caribbean. Our mission is to enable creatives to succeed so that they can create economic and social value, gain access to global markets, and have a positive impact on their local communities. So we deliver several programs with the support of our awesome partners, where we train creatives, provide incubator space, develop digital and business skills, and provide grants and other developmental opportunities. So today, I'm going to share a little bit about the jobs that are happening right now in what is one of the most flexible and fast-growing career areas, the creative economy. Last year, the United Nations General Assembly established 2021 as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. This confirmed the rising role of the cultural and creative industries on the global stage and its importance to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The creative economy is defined as being based on tangible and intangible creative assets, potentially generating economic growth and development. And pre-pandemic, it was one of the fastest growing sectors in every region of the world. The creative economy is very diverse, encompassing visual arts, performing arts, heritage, museums and libraries, culinary arts, sport, film and video, broadcasting, gaming, music, literature, publishing, and even interactive media like virtual and augmented reality. It also covers other areas like design, architecture, advertising, fashion, modeling, jewelry, and craft, and then what are called the transversal industries, cultural tourism, creative education, which you can imagine includes all of our dance hall teachers touring the world giving classes, as well as software design. Here are just a few of the types of creative careers, from your traditional actor, dancer, and fashion designer, to your sound engineers, your animators, your game and virtual reality designers. In addition to being very diverse, the creative economy delivers. In 2015, the United Nations Council on Trade and Development pegged the value of the global market for creative goods at a significant US $509 billion. According to other calculations by UNESCO, and dating back from 2013, the global creative industries reportedly generated US $2.253 trillion in revenue and formally employed almost 30 million people worldwide. UNCTAD, which has been tracking the trade in creative goods for close to 20 years, found that creative economy export trade growth averaged 7% between 2002 and 2015, often outpacing the growth rate for other traditional industries. According to pre-pandemic forecasts, the creative economy could represent 10% of global GDP by 2030. It is highly transformative in terms of income generation, job creation, and export earnings, with spillover effects that stimulate innovation in other sectors. Here in downtown Kingston, for example, we can clearly see the impact of the creative economy on other industries like tourism and gastronomy. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why creativity is key for the jobs agenda. First of all, fast-growing job creation. In emerging markets, the creative economy is a major driver of informal jobs for an estimated 300 million people, visual arts being the top employer, followed by music and then books or publishing. In Africa and the Middle East, the sectors employ around 2.4 million people, and the creative economy creates about 1.9 million jobs in Latin America and the Caribbean. Nollywood, which of course is the Nigerian film industry, is the second largest employer in the nation after the agricultural sector, creating 300,000 direct jobs. It employs around 1 million people, and with 2,000 films produced per year, it's ahead of Hollywood in terms of production. Even in South Africa, cultural and creative industries contributing 5.6% to GDP and trending upwards. And again in Nigeria, the music industry, driven by that Afrobeat sound, was growing at an annual rate of 13.4%. In Australia, they report that creative jobs are on average paid 24% more than those in other industries, and job growth in the creative sector is almost double that of other occupations. Number two, culture employs youth. The cultural and creative sectors are particularly important for youth. In Pakistan, for example, nearly a third of people in creative and cultural occupations are under 24 years of age. Similar in Ghana and Uganda, more than 25% of people in the orange economy are young people. And same thing is happening in Latin America and the Caribbean. Young workers are accounting for nearly 20% of cultural occupations. It can be concluded that the share of youth employed in CCI is larger in low-income countries than in advanced countries. And even though developing countries have a larger proportion of youth, the figure highlights the important contribution of the orange economy as a source of employment opportunities, particularly for young people in developing nations. Reason number three, the creative economy employs more women. In most countries, more women than men are employed in this sector. Globally, the number of women working part-time in cultural occupations is higher than the number of men, especially in North America, Europe, and Latin America. The caveat is that salaries tend to be low, and both women and men in cultural occupations are more likely to hold a second job. Cultural work also tends to be precarious. 1 in 4 women employed in the culture sector are self-employed. Then reason number 4, culture drives economic growth. The creative industries contributed 3% of the global GDP in 2013. In the Republic of Korea, in the US, creative industries are estimated to account for nearly 10% of GDP. In Kenya and Ethiopia, they represented more than 5%. Even small island economies like St. Lucia and Jamaica benefit from a sizable creative sector with a GDP contribution of 8% and 5% respectively. Finally, number 5, creative economy is critical to us attaining the SDGs. Creative activities rely on those local intellectual assets such as creativity, skills, IP, artistry, and not on natural resources like oil, gas, or deep-sea mining. This can help countries like ours to diversify our economies sustainably. Jamaica may be termed less developed in terms of GDP, but we have a rich and dynamic cultural assets that can really serve as global competitive advantages. So nurturing the creativity rooted in the local cultural assets, our people would support our efforts towards sustainable social and economic development. In turn, these types of activities can preserve our old cities, promote local identity, traditional culture, and our natural heritage in a sustainable manner. So what I want to leave you with is that the creative economy is made up of real people doing real jobs in different parts of the creative industries. Through our partnerships with the IDB Lab, Development Bank of Jamaica, we have incubator and accelerator programs, and I'm just going to show you 6 Jamaican creative entrepreneurs and the jobs that they do. Dainty is a filmmaker, Jareen is a book experience curator and retailer, Javier is a visual artist and designer, Glenn is a game designer, Sanjay is a dance hall entrepreneur working with global camps in 5 locations around the globe. Tika delivers boutique cultural tourism experiences. Today, the creative industries are among the most dynamic sectors in the world economy, providing new opportunities for developing countries like ours to leapfrog into emerging high-growth areas of the world economy. Let's take that leap together. Thank you.
You know, as Jamaicans, we tend to take for granted the opportunities that our natural creativity and our art has. And what Andrea just spoke of, the enormous potential that exists for us as a people to not only bring the social value of our culture and of our arts, but also the economic opportunities that exist, I think was just phenomenal. So thank you so much, Andrea, for those comments. Our next presenter gave me very clear instructions. Her introduction should be just this: wife of David with 3 children and 2 dogs. 4 dogs. My apologies, thank you. And 4 dogs. But, you know, I will not, I followed your instructions, but I will not ignore the impact that she has had as a Chief Executive Officer of the JMMB Joan Duncan Foundation. She has dedicated almost 2 decades of her career to building others, to philanthropy. She has brought her expertise in fundraising, donor relations, event planning, administrative and fiscal management to her role as CEO of the foundation. It advances JMMB's mandate that is centered on love as a positive impact to the lives of individuals and nation building through supporting educational and transformational and entrepreneurial initiatives. Before joining the JMMB family in 2013, she served as general manager of the American Chamber of Commerce of Jamaica, where she had the responsibility for the management and implementation of information and networking opportunities. And through this, she had a significant impact on our community. She's a holder of a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of South Florida, and she was a very active student, which is very evidenced in the top awards that she copped. Kim currently serves as Vice Chairman of the Council of Voluntary Social Service and President of the Immaculate Conception High School Alumni Association. She will present a case study on the Foundation's Conversations for Greatness and collaboration with higher education institutions. Before we welcome her to the stage, let us hear from one of Advance's beneficiaries who participated and benefited from the JMMB Joan Duncan Foundation Conversations for Greatness.
Hi, my name is Joanne Campbell, and I am an Advance beneficiary. I participated in the JMMB Joan Duncan Foundation's Conversations for Greatness workshops. My former classmates and I were introduced to these workshops by the Advance program. The sessions were informative and engaging. We are often told that soft skills are important and are needed to excel in the workplace. Coming out of these sessions, I was equipped with the necessary tools to help me develop a positive mindset towards life and sharpen essential soft skills that are effectively needed to help me navigate my environment, workspace, and achieve my goals. My favorite discussion from these sessions was the topic on how your emotions and mood affect the workspace and how you should react. I have learned that practicing to address my emotions rather than overlooking them and discarding them may be more fruitful and productive when operating in a professional space. There was a 10-step activity of things we should always do in any situations, number 7 of which resonated deeply with me. The facilitator spoke about the importance of respect. I value respect. Whether male or female, irrespective of age, we should all have respect. I found it interesting and important to learn about the do's and don'ts in the workplace.
Good afternoon, and I warmly welcome you from Kingston, Jamaica. And I thank USAID, Advance, and FHI 360 for inviting me here. And hello to my fellow presenters. It is my pleasure to be part of this discussion that occurs at a most critical time at this stage of our country's development, getting our young people work ready for workforce development and transformational learning. The world of work is evolving, and it is doing so rapidly. We are seeing a growing trend of humans versus technology in the workplace, and it is being acknowledged that soft skills is a great differentiator, and as such, it is in high demand. In fact, a survey done by LinkedIn, and we know we all love LinkedIn, it showed that 57% of senior leaders said that soft skills are more important than technical skills. And in one of his many speeches, a former president, Franklin Roosevelt, said, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." This excerpt could very well have been written as part of the ethos of the JMMB Joan Duncan Foundation. Through our Conversations for Greatness program, the Foundation has been on a mission to prepare and equip all Jamaicans, including youth, with the skills necessary to tap into their greatness, whether as entrepreneurs or just members of the workforce. We have been playing our part to shape our youth for the future so that they can choose a path with limitless possibilities and not be crippled by fear and paradigms that no longer serve their purpose. The primary goal of Conversations for Greatness is to unearth and encourage individuals to tap into their greatness in order to impact their lives and, by extension, their communities and Jamaica. The CFG program, therefore, has a mission to develop, steward, and support transformational initiatives, and the partnership with FHI 360 Advanced is another testament to mission accomplished for the greater good of Jamaica. The JMB Joan Duncan Foundation has zeroed in on the development of soft skills in form of transformational training, starting first among stakeholders in the educational sector through our national project in education and with other beneficiaries of the foundation, and of course, this continues to expand. This focus area of mindset change wasn't chosen just because it's a nice thing to do. No, in fact, by all indications, soft skills is a necessity. I've been speaking about soft skills, but what exactly does this mean? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 2020 stated, unlike hard skills that can be taught, such as coding, bookkeeping, or writing, soft skills are thought to be somewhat inherent, a part of your personality, and are deepened over time as experience is gained. These traits can be defined by your attitude, motivation, adaptability, and overall personality. And it is being acknowledged globally that in order to be successful in the new workplace, soft skills are valued and necessary. The traditional educational system the world over, however, has focused on building the technical skills of students with limited, deliberate opportunities for building of soft skills. And that's where the foundation, along with partners like FHI 360 Advanced, step in. And we want to pause here to acknowledge FHI 360 for the foresight to bring us on board to address this gap through Conversations for Greatness. Through Conversations for Greatness, the participants gather the necessary tools to support mindset and behavioral change, ultimately leading to powerful and positive transformations in their thinking and behavior. And at an even deeper level, the fact is that CFG is rooted in love and taps into the very core of the human experience, giving us the ability to step into being truly who we are. And so, as individuals tap into their greatness through CFG, we recognize the power of the ripple effect. Marion Williams said it best. If you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And we have seen where our CFG participants learn how to understand personal and collective paradigms that drive behavior. They take responsibility and become accountable for the results in their lives and the organization. They become values-driven, have a new level of self-awareness. There are effective relationships, the increased ability to effectively resolve conflict, choose more powerfully and become aware of what is possible for themselves and their lives, and perhaps most importantly, they recognize themselves as leaders and have tools to build the capacity for transformational leadership. Let me share with you the words of one of your students who was part of the FHI 360 cohort, the type of impact that Conversations for Greatness had on his life. He says, I have been doing a lot of introspection of myself. I want to now apply these teachings to my daily life to improve my social skills, work ethic, and my professional life. Another person said, being part of the sessions was quite an experience. It was an eye-opener for me. It made me do some sort of self-reflecting. I have been reflecting on what purpose I have and what I need to do. I think it was a wonderful session for us as students. We have been on a mission for years since the inception of CFG in 2015 when we were working in schools, and can attest to the tide of positivity that has swept across our participants, where we work with all the adults. At Greater Portmore High School, a CFG success story, they are now able to boast about the trickle-down effect of an increase in student punctuality, reduction in both absenteeism and major behavioral changes, in addition to improved interpersonal dynamics. Donald Quarry, which was one of our first schools, saw significant decreases in student suspensions, which was attributed to a change in the way of being, meaning the interaction between teachers and students, which resulted in positive effects. Exit surveys show that by the end of workshops and sustainability period, that on average, 95% of respondents reported that interactions and relationships in the schools had significantly improved, as reflected in a positive pattern with our indicators. Monitoring and evaluation reports showed the following indicators moved from negative to positive. Participants who say they feel genuinely respected and valued. Another positive move was a percentage of staff who said, I feel my job is worthwhile and important. Results like these have been replicated to various degrees in all settings which we have done CFG, whether with the youth, community persons, mentors, etc. These are not just statistics. These are real lives being affected and transformed through training that focuses on shifting mindset and helping participants to create new paradigms and realms of possibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what is needed as we build our youth for the future. There is greatness in all of us, and sometimes that greatness can only be unearthed if the right environment is intentionally created to nurture that greatness. The compounding effects of improved soft skills and positive mindset will be the building blocks to transforming our society by creating the type of workforce and entrepreneurs, and indeed the type of citizens we want to see in the future. We believe in the power of conversations for greatness. This type of transformation pays dividends for the present and the future as it changes lives. We therefore are pleased with the strong and meaningful partnership with FHI 360. And I will leave you with the charge actually, to play your part, either through partnership with the GMMB Joan Duncan Foundation or through development of your own tailored program to build our youth for the future. We believe that there is greatness in everyone, and it is for us to help each other to unearth that greatness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that contribution. She quoted FDR, that we can build our youth for the future. And if I dare say, the advanced program is also focused on that very same ethos. And maybe that's why this partnership with the advanced program, FHI 360, and JMMB's foundation has really seen such resounding success. Congratulations to the Conversations for Greatness program. And again, thank you, Kim, for your presentation. Now, I'm happy to introduce our guest speaker for the evening. She is the Executive Director of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, a position she has held since January 2021. Hailing from the proud and quaint parish of Hanover, Mrs. Breeze McNabb is known for her extensive experience in building memberships, organizations through partnerships, and her innovative skills in fostering constructive relationships among stakeholders. She previously served as Executive Director of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA, where she was responsible for managing the operations and policy direction of the organization. While at the association, she made significant impact in the areas of policy and economic development, particularly in the areas of manufacturing, export, and trade relations. Some of her proudest achievements during her tenure at the JMEA includes expanding the reach and impact of the biennial trade show, Expo Jamaica, integral participation in the negotiations that helped our manufacturers to retain incentives, and providing operational leadership for the amalgamation of JMA, Jamaica Manufacturers Association, and the JEA, the Jamaica Exporters Association, to give us the JMEA. She is a proud graduate of the University of the West Indies with a bachelor's in political science and a master's degree in governance. We welcome Mrs. McNabb as our guest speaker this afternoon. But before she joins, let us learn a little bit more about the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
The Private Sector Organization of Jamaica is the strongest and most diverse network of individuals, associations, and corporate businesses of all sizes and across all industries working to advance and realize inclusive, equitable, and sustainable private sector-led growth through advocacy, action, and partnerships. The role of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica is to advocate for reform that will improve the business environment, provide opportunities, and enhance the capacity of companies to be productive and competitive, and to be a part of the solution for Jamaica's socio-economic growth and development. The vision of the PSOJ is aligned with the vision for the country, working in partnership to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, do business, and raise our families.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be addressing you today, and I welcome the hosting of this forum on workforce development and the opportunity to provide the private sector's input. The aspirations we have as a country in being globally competitive and meeting development targets established, including Vision 2030, requires a collaborative and strategic approach, which is what we've committed to at the PSOJ. You've heard from my presenters earlier, and I must say that a part of the core of this discussion, there are certain facts we can all agree on. One, the workplace is changing rapidly. The key drivers of this change currently include automation, digitalization, Industry 4.0 and now 5.0, and the green economy coming to the fore. Two, we have an unemployment rate of 6%. However, we have 31,000 youths who are looking for jobs and cannot find jobs. And another fact, we have 387,000 youths who can work but are outside of the labor force. Yes, some may be going to school, have home duties, among other factors, but within this number, we have those who have also chosen not to work. We also have 28,000 persons who were granted visas for permanent residence abroad in 2019, which would also include persons seeking better job opportunities. Let's highlight some further nuances in this space. Whilst one of Jamaica's competitive advantages has been its low-cost labor, this is now proving a challenge. Members of the workforce are saying we want more money, right? As the inflationary pressures are prompting persons to seek higher paying jobs. Additionally, reports as far back as 2007 pointed that Jamaica's comparatively low investment in worker training programs in comparison to our peers in Latin America and the rest of the Caribbean. We were at around 26% in offering Jamaican firms offering training against 51% in the region. And we've all heard it. The education system requires significant overhauling. We've seen the recent Jamaican Education Transformation Commission report pointing to troubling levels of inadequacy in both literacy and numeracy. This data and information point to why we have a growing skills gap. And this is not a new problem, but has further been exacerbated with the onset of COVID-19. At the PSOJ, what are our members saying? They're sharing the same sentiments. You hear them say the Great Resignation is still on. Although there are many efforts being made through programs and public and private training institutions, the problem still persists. They all say, we are all competing for the same limited number of persons that want to work. And then I just learned a new term, circular stealing. We're stealing from each other in the industries. You hear tourism say the BPO taking it, and even within tourism, they say the cruise shipping industry taking the workers. But interestingly, this competition is now driving wage increases in some of these sectors. You also hear them say, it's just not enough to graduate. We require persons with complex problem solving, creativity, originality, initiative, reasoning, fresh thinking, analytical thinking, emotional intelligence, leadership and social influence, customer service, and the soft skills matter. We heard that earlier, right? With our continued focus on human capital development, the PSOJ did a skills gap survey in the first quarter of 2022. And the key findings were as follows. 42% of the respondents selected management in leadership and projects as the main skills required by their company, followed by digital skills with 36%, customer service and sales with 25%, marketing with 23%, and engineering and communication each representing 12%. From this survey, 41% of the respondents selected digital skills as the main skill they believe will be required by their company within the next 3 to 5 years. These findings were further underscored by data pulled from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, which highlighted the following. Of the top occupational jobs advertised in the newspapers, 185 of them were for managerial and supervisory skills. The most work permits issued in 2021 were for managers, 1,667, and around 421 for service and sales workers. The accommodation and food services, agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and information and communication were granted permits from as low as 123 to 670 persons. Interestingly, I must point out that based on the jobs advertised, the top qualifications required by employers are bachelor's, followed by a master's degree, and then certificates. Having established the challenges and qualification requirements, let's now move the conversation to the areas of opportunities for our new and even existing entrants in the labor force. We have identified as a country 9 international competitive sectors. Based on a recent HeartTrust NTA Skills Demand Survey as recent as May 2022, there were 133 skills gap across all these industries. The study found that ICT, manufacturing, services, and tourism industries had the most areas that were difficult to fill. Today, I will focus on 2 of those industries, agribusiness and tourism. Both are key growth industries for Jamaica due to their backward and forward linkages, as well as employment and export earning potential. The agribusiness sector, and I'll use 2019 figures, contributed $813 million to GDP, and tourism contributed $1.4 billion. For the tourism sector, it was found that persons are available but lacked required skills in areas such as hotel and restaurant management, hotel maintenance, landscaping, multilingual front desk agents, among many others. The new and emerging occupations, as well as those in demand, were digital marketing specialists, wellness coach and coordinator, all-terrain vehicle repair technicians, scuba instructors, water sports technicians. And I'll move to agribusiness now. But I cannot talk about agribusiness without talking about agriculture. Within the agricultural sector, there are several jobs available where we need trained professionals. These include agronomists, irrigation engineers, plant nutritionists, climate experts and environmental scientists, industrial refrigeration technicians, and post-harvest technicians. I mean, simple things that we need: food safety and quality officers, just the agro-processors, and food technologies. The agribusiness value chain is an area to tap into, as there are approximately 300 different career skill sets that are required. Whether your interest lies in machinery, the primary produce, the processing, or the marketing and distribution of products within this value chain. Cross-cutting for both industries as we further automate and digitize our digital skills, especially around data protection and cyber security. So, what are some of the key takeaways? Across industries, we are facing challenges in identifying skilled workers locally. There is a deficit in soft skills. There is a dissatisfaction in the quality of output from the education system and the mismatch between labor market programs. We maintain that we can bridge the short to medium-term skills gap by leveraging foreign talent for specialized skill set for higher value services, which can seed the local skill pool. But we also maintain this must be done in conjunction with a strategic restructuring of our secondary, vocational, and tertiary institutions to meet the needs of the private sector and to equip, train, and upskill our youth and labor force to meet the needs of our knowledge-based digital economy. What are the solutions needed to address our workforce development challenges? And I will raise 10 points here. 1, interventions from early childhood stage to address basic literacy. 2, developing a work culture of productivity and high service standards. 3, we have to ramp up the national skills training. 4, matching demand and supply, but having a national database that we can all connect. From the private sector side, providing input, and I'm talking about robust information sharing, to ensure that the programs designed and implemented by our education system are in keeping with the skills most needed for our job market and the country's development. 6, strengthening the management of our recruitment, retention, and talent progression policies and systems within our own companies. 7, developing in-house training, working with the training institutions to do certification on the job, as well as participating in formal internship and apprenticeship programs. 8, establishing training institutions or partnering with existing training institutions to deliver required programs in STEM, coding, etc. And we've seen that happening, but we need more. 9, we have to guide our educators and students of the national priorities and opportunities to inform not only the development of the programs, but their selection of the programs, as well as any special funding or concessionary degrees in these areas. But most importantly, we're here today, there's one program. There are a lot of programs about the place, a lot of efforts being made. We need a systematic approach to improve the education system, enhance the existing workforce, and meet the needs of the private sector. One thing is clear to all of us, that a skilled workforce is inextricably linked to the country's long-term economic growth. As both the beneficiary of a skilled workforce and engine of targeted interventions, we see our role as being a solution-driven partner. Vision 2030 is fast approaching. We are in our 60th year of national independence, and we remain hopeful about our ability to thrive as a nation. However, we will not make the desired progress if we do not invest in our people in a holistic manner. An integrated approach in solving this multi-sectoral challenge is an imperative. We welcome this opportunity, not only for dialogue, but active step towards addressing Jamaica's skills gap. The task ahead is to build on this synergy, to ensure that our economy thrives and our people accomplish their greatest potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amiga. You have a really big task ahead of you. It can't be easy to sit as an observatory of the private sector across our country and to make the connection between what the private sector needs and what education needs to provide. That's a really phenomenal task, but it sounds like you're really off to a good start, and really appreciate the points, the data-driven points that you made, and the 10 recommendations on how we can play our part in strengthening our private sector. We have come to the segment where we will sit down and discuss how the private sector can help to prepare students for the workplace. And I'm sure you have several questions and comments about the presentation so far, and I'm encouraging you to put those in the Zoom or YouTube chat so that we can raise those questions with our panelists. But before we jump into that discussion, we have a very special feature for you. Moesha is a past student of the College of Agricultural Science and Education, CASE, in Portland. She completed her internship at Jamaica Producers, which is a major entity that supplies agricultural commodities and services in Jamaica. She will share her experience through that feature on how it made her ready for the world of work.
Hi, my name is Moesha Martin. I am a past student of the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, where I was enrolled in the Agri-Processing and Business Management program. I was also a recipient of an advanced program scholarship. So why am I here with you today? Well, I am here to share my internship experience with you. I completed my internship experience at JP Farms as a quality control intern. Before we continue, I must thank the advanced program through USAID and JP Farms for this golden opportunity. What did I do? I was responsible for quality control checks. I tested and inspected products to ensure that they met quality standards. And I also monitored my co-workers to ensure that they complied with the standards when carrying out their daily tasks. The experience was great. I built on skills and knowledge I learned in school. For example, I now know how to de-an a bunch of bananas without damaging the fruits. I can now remove defect from a cluster of bananas, and I also learned how to do a full evaluation of raw materials, sanitization, water, and temperature checks. I was told by my supervisor that I can't tell someone how to do their work if I don't know how to do it myself. Speaking of my supervisor,
Moisha worked with us for about 5 to 6 months. At first she was a bit reserved, but over time she loosened up and became a part of the JP family. She's smart, she's a quick learner. Overall, I'd say it was good working with her. At JP Tropical, we pride ourselves on quality, and Moisha got the opportunity to work in our quality department, where she ensures that the highest quality pineapples and bananas are being delivered to our customers. She was responsible for testing the translucency and sweetness of our pineapples and bananas. She did daily water checks, among other things. What does internship mean to JP? At JP, we want to expand the meaning of a career in agriculture to include quality specialists like myself. Therefore, JP encourages internships.
I was a little nervous there. I really enjoyed my time at Jamaica Producers. What I've learned about agri-processing, quality checks, sanitization, and risk management in school really helped me to execute my daily tasks. I am happy I was exposed to this knowledge both in the classroom and on our field trips. Want to know what my job entails? Let me share with you a day in the life of my internship at JP. As you can see here, firstly, the pines are sent down the tube and into a series of washes on the conveyor belt. At the ends of the line, they are tagged. If they're packed in red bags, they are price marked. If not, they are just regular market pine. Now, after that, they're sent inside the packing house where they will be packed. Now, it is time for my part of the job. Welcome to my station where I do inspection of pineapples. O'Neill here will remove a box of pineapple from the pallet to put on the scale for me to get the weight before I can do any inspection check.
This is the weight of the box, 15.3 kg.
So the box is at its maximum weight, and that is okay for me to do my inspection. I will remove the pineapples from the box one by one. Meantime, I will also do my checks. So I will check the crown to make sure that it is washed properly, and also the base. I will also look underneath to make sure that there is no mealybugs or pseudomolar, etc. I will feel around the pineapple to make sure that there is no soft spots. I also check for sunburns and any other field defects and packing house defects. So I'll check how many pineapples are in this box. This box consists of 10 pineapples. So I will repack the box in its correct order to make sure that they don't squeeze. So that will conclude my check of a pineapple box. I will recover the box and allow the gentleman to put it back on the pallet. So that is the end of my packing house check for pineapples. After leaving the packing house, we will come to the lab to do a pineapple test. This test is called a pineapple taste profile. So we normally take 3 samples of pineapple, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Today, we'll be testing at stage 2 pineapple. What we'll do when we're testing a pineapple first, we will cut off the crown and then cut the pineapple in half. So after we cut the pineapple in half, we will check for its translucency. We have a chart here with the 5 different stages. So you can put the pineapple up against the chart to tell which stage it is. So after that is finished, we will check the bricks. We're going to use a bricks machine. So firstly, we will need the juice from the middle. Make sure you get it from the middle. So you get as much juice as possible. And then we can just taste it to see if it is still in the right reading. I would say that it is okay. It is not too sweet nor too sour. It's just right. So what's next for me? I am heading to the Cayman Islands to work in the agricultural industry. There, I will be responsible for overseeing a nursery. I will be planting, cultivating, and harvesting plants and trees. After, I will come back to Jamaica to start my own business, which is running a farm, of course. Exciting times ahead. Until next time, I hope USAID continue to invest in youth and Jamaica Producers Group Limited continue to give students the experience they need to excel in this industry. Bye.
Right, so Moesha has given us a brand new appreciation for pineapple. If you think about it, you know, every time you have a slice of pineapple from Jamaica Producers, you don't quite think about how much goes into ensuring that it's of great quality and that it is safe. And this is a very point that Amigo discussed, that the private sector needs specific skills to help ensure that we have all the commodities that we need and the services that we need to enjoy our lives. That was a phenomenal feature. And in this particular discussion, we're going to be looking at some specific strategies about how we can better engage the private sector in helping to prepare our students for work. In the preceding segment, we met Kim from JMMB Joan Duncan's Foundation, Amiga, who was our guest presenter from the PSOJ, and Andrea Dempster-Chung of Kingston Creative. So I won't introduce them again. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to introduce, though, our 2 new guests that we have here on stage. The first one I met, I must have been in 2007. I was a student of biochemistry. And as a student, and if there are students joining now, usually you're kind of low grade, stalking a handful of people through their careers because you hope at some point you can walk in their shoes and that your career will blossom as theirs have. And for me, Dr. Cliff Riley was one of those people. I watched that career bloom, and to be honest, the success that I've had really has a lot to do with the work that you have done in our industry. Dr. Cliff Riley is an international consultant on food safety, product innovation, and agro-production for international trade in Geneva, with a responsibility for projects in the African, Caribbean, and Pacific regions. He holds a PhD in biotechnology, a Master's of Arts in Education, and a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. So he's a scientist, but he's also a teacher. It's just super amazing. He has served at the highest level in many national and regional bodies, such as JANAC, which is a Jamaica National Agency for Certification, the Carnegie Foundation for Cancer Research, Diabetes Association of Jamaica, the National Commission on Science and Technology, the University Council for Jamaica's S&T Advisory Committee, and the University of Technology. He has also served as a General Manager of Serenity from Canada, and, of course, the Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council from 2015 to 2021. Welcome, and thank you for joining us, Cliff.
Thanks so much.
And although we have just met, I can also tell that Tankito Chance Wilson will also be a phenomenal contributor this evening to our conversations. Even though we've just met, we're connected. You know, they talk about 6 degrees of separation, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So she is the Executive Director for the Barita Foundation. And in her role, she leads the planning, execution, and partnership building in support of a number of initiatives, including the implementation of Cornerstone and Barita's philanthropic leadership in Jamaica. She's motivated daily to pursue her passion of supporting individuals, especially our youth, to reach their full potential through education and self-improvement. She has over 2 decades of experience in social development, administration, community development, and social work. So prior to joining Barita, she served as CEO of Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, and this is where our paths crossed. Because as a young scientist just graduated from university, I was working at the Institute of Jamaica, and I got something on my desk that I was to present and talk to young kids from, and the Institute of Jamaica is in one of the most challenging communities in our country. And I got an invitation to present to students about native Jamaican animals and plants at the STEM Center in downtown. I'm like, STEM Center in downtown? And when I went, it is one, you know, I have the poorest memory, but it is one thing I will never forget when I stepped into that STEM center. It was amazing, in the heart of downtown. And she was responsible for making that happen. So our paths have crossed and crossed again. So she is representing, again, Barita and its philanthropic work, and I'm sure she will have a significant contribution to make of the role of foundations in advancing preparedness for work. We'll be having a conversation through Advance's work in Jamaica with students, with institutions, with faculty. There are several questions that emerge about the role of the private sector in helping our students to transition to work. And what we hope to achieve today is to discuss some of those concerns, some of those recommendations, some of those questions, and getting your perspective, a very diverse panel, on what the private sector could do to help support the work of academia as we move forward. If you have any questions, you are still free to go ahead and post them in our chat via Zoom or via YouTube, and we will raise the questions if it emerges. So we will start with the first set of questions, which really is for Amigo. And you discussed it about the needs of the private sector. And those are very diverse depending on the area or the industry. But if you could condense in the best way possible, what is missing from new hirees in the private sector? So when students come into the private sector, if you were to have one full voice for your constituents, what is missing from new hirees?
Well, I don't think it's adding something new to the table, but when we spoke about what was happening in the economy and just globally, the whole thing about Gen Zs and millennials, and one of the things that I hear my members say, you know, is that stick-to-itiveness and loyalty, no, they no more, you know. So, so I just wanted to add to the But I know what a lot of our employers want are people with positive attitude. And I think that's something that we have to continue working on, just that improving the culture, understanding that culture of work. Because people, even if you don't have the certification, you know, people still give you the job because you have a good attitude. And if you have the certification and the attitude not good and you get the job, you're not going to keep it for very long. So that's what I would like to share.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point of view. Tankito, as the director for the foundation at Barito, based on your community work, why aren't youth sticking to it? What is now the gap? They get an opportunity. Why aren't they staying? Can you shed any light on that?
Sure. So, you know, Amiga is correct. The stick-it-to-itiveness is not something that is a common feature among Gen Zs and maybe even some millennials. And there is something that in HR is called role-based competency gaps. So that's the overall picture, lifespan of an employee within a company. You know, what does it look like at the beginning, and the training and development, and the tenure, long-term tenure. My experience has really shown that the new hires are not engaging in seeking to fill that gap. And so they serve for a time and they are not willing to assess any kind of long-term tenure based on experience and training. They have an immediate goal of where they want to go, and if it is not achieved within a minimum amount of time, then they're ready to move on.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. If there, and I'm going to pass this on to Andrea, if there are opportunities, you know, you spoke about this very huge opportunity for the creative sector, creative industries. If there is a young person who is studying some relevant field, what opportunities does Kingston Creative offer to help them learn more about these opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship in the creative industry space?
Yeah, so we do a lot of training at Kingston Creative, but we do not train in creative skills, because you have iCreate, you have the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, you've got Heart Trust VTDI, and so we don't believe in doing anything that's already out there. So when the creatives do come, they know their creative stuff, right? They know their dance, their music, their theater. What they don't know is the business skills and the digital skills that they need as well. Some don't know how to write an invoice, for example. So the training that we provide is all free training, and we provide training in digital and business skills. So we talk to them, we teach them rather about IP. We teach intellectual property, the value of protecting your assets, your creative assets, whether they're tangible or intangible. We teach them about accounting, simple entrepreneurship 101 type stuff, because we find that the graduates come out knowing their craft, but not understanding how to translate that now into a proper business, not understanding the back end, sit down, work it out, pay the taxes part of running any business. And sometimes I think when we think about these industries, we don't intuitively think of creativity. You know, we name the other industry, the BPOs, and we don't think about creativity, although so many of our young people, this is what they do naturally. So I think what is important is validating them at Kingston Creative, giving them a space to where the A is in STEAM, right? Yes. So, and also filling those gaps so that they have the business sense, because most creatives end up being entrepreneurs or within some sort of enterprise.
Yeah, I guess I need to sign up to, you know, I'm not a creative by the traditional sense, but I'm going to have to sign up for some of the classes, because as a scientist who has now gone into entrepreneurship, creating an invoice was something I mean, you had to learn on. Submit an invoice. Okay, what's an invoice? You know, you're right. These are the gaps that sometimes really does make it difficult in the transition process. Amigo, the PSOJ, what facilities, if any, do you provide in helping young people learn about the opportunities? Because you presented some great data, but you know, as students preparing for exam, probably PSOJ is the last place they'd look for that information, and really it is you who probably has it.
Yes, we have it, and that's the unfortunate thing about it is sharing it. When I spoke about it earlier, you know, how do we get the information out there to the right people, and having even a database or one platform where this can be facilitated. So whilst the PSOJ might not do it as an organization, we have our members who do it. We partner with HEART. I mean, I sit on HEART Stakeholder Interface Committee, and some of the data that you share, it's residing within HEART. And I had to say to them, but how is it getting out there? How are the universities, how from the primary school do they know that these are the skill sets that the industries want? So I think we have to look into that and how we do that much better. We do go around events like these, other events that we're invited at, and we will speak. But it needs to be sustainable. Yes. It can't be when you're invited to speak at a function.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and, you know, as the only man on our panel, we're going to talk a little bit about gender, right? You know, you're a specialist in agribusiness, biotechnology. Are there any trends that you're seeing when it comes to the differences in the transition to the agribusiness space, agriculture, biotechnology, in this R&D space? Are there any differences you're seeing in the transition of women versus men to the field of work in your area?
Most definitely, Aisha. When you look on the dynamics, not just in Jamaica, but in terms of the entire Caribbean, the Pacific, and the African space, you see quite a bit of females transition into the agri-productive space. They are not so much involved in primary production, in tilling the soil, driving the tractors, and doing the heavy lifting, but more from the business perspective, the logistics, the distribution, the sales, some of the more critical aspects that are linked to the full survival of the agri-productive sector becoming successful. And what we have seen as well is there has been a major shift in how agriculture has been seen in evolving economies. I call developing countries evolving economies, in that they are the younger persons, the Gen Zs, the millennials, are more taking it from a business perspective. So they're not so much involved in engaging in agriculture for the love of it, or because they want to farm a fool, as some person will put it, but more for the financial benefits and rewards that can be harnessed from agriculture. And I think a lot of that has to do with the new energy, the creativity, and innovativeness that you see coming from a lot of the female players within this sector, as well as some of the more structured organizational skills. While some men involved in agriculture, the traditional farmers, may look at it as, boy, this is my livelihood, I'm going to stick to it, this is what I've been doing for years. And back to the discussion, you know, that Amig and Tankita has been having as well, is that the younger, more creative persons, both males and females, they're not going to stick with agriculture if it's not financially viable, because they're looking on a career, they're looking at advancing themselves financially, and they're also looking at changing the dynamics in the financial position for their families, so that their families don't have to go through what they went through in terms of the hardships. So the dynamics have changed significantly. We are seeing more and more females moving into more of the more high-value component aspects within industry. Even when you look on production and agri-production and manning the production space, you have quite a number of females moving within that space, and the males still at the primary production. However, looking at the data set, and if looking at the starting last set of data, you're still seeing it being a male-dominated sector. And it's not just Jamaica, it's generally. But the niche areas, which are the more high-value areas, you find more females moving in. You find a lot more females being involved in terms of partnerships. So it's not just the husband alone that is running a farm. You have the husband, you have the wife, you have kids, the spouse, everybody really involved in the process. So there's a major shift, and it's becoming more and more profitable. As you know, I'm indicated, 800 and something million US dollars in 1 year from agri-production alone is a lot when you compare to tourism, which is also over $1 billion. So it's running pretty close.
Yeah, excellent. So Kim, you know, you focus on community development, you know. Are you seeing similar trends, or are you seeing the needs of youth in terms of the work readiness initiatives? You find that the needs are different when looking at women versus men, young men transitioning, women. What are those needs from the community development perspective?
Well, we are actually focusing on education and entrepreneurship. And so what we are finding is the need of the soft skills. we are coming from the examination of where you need a change of mindset, because you, as I think it was Imogen who said, you can bring in a new hire, but if they don't have the right attitude, you're not going to be able to keep them. And so the ability, I think, of the younger ones coming in to recognize that and adapt needs to be addressed. You were speaking about the creatives. I can speak personally of my daughter, who, first of all, we need to get rid of the mindset of the traditional workplace, lawyer, doctor, Indian chief. When my daughter came to me and said that she wanted to explore her creative side, and she went to Edna and did photography, I said, oh my God, she's going to starve. How is she going to make money? And she has thrived because guess what? There's social media. I mean, there are so many non-traditional jobs now that we now need to be retooling, right?
Absolutely.
You said it, that there's so many other areas that are thriving that we need to take our eye off of the lawyer, doctor, and Indian chief. And so that is what we really want to be encouraging.
Yeah. Retooling. I like that term. Retooling the industries, retooling the youth that will be fed into these industries. Advance focuses on three main industries: agribusiness, creative industries, and health and wellness tourism. And this is, I'm throwing this out to the entire panel. Should the private sector dictate the retooling in academia? You know what you need, private sector knows what it needs, and the role of academia or education is to provide the tools, the youth, the workforce, to supply that need. Should the private sector dictate the retooling or the overhauling, which I think is a term that Amiga used, of the educational system?
Well,
I mean,
well, I'll hand over to Amiga, but I think it has to be a partnership, because the private sector knows what it is they're looking for, what the end product ought to be, but academia has the understanding and the know-how in terms of delivering the training, so it has to be a combined collaborative effort, for sure.
I would say it's supply and demand.
Yes.
Because if you oversupply, just like you say, you need scuba divers, and so you're going to find people going into that area, and then you're not going to have the employment for your lawyers, and so it's supply and demand.
we just have to be at the table. The information will change. Some industries more rapidly than others. So it's not just a one-off conversation. It's being there and providing that information on a constant basis. And as you said before, it's about partnership and it's about the supply and demand. They both have the different expertise and what they bring to the table.
And just to add briefly, there's a big disconnect between academia, industry needs, and market needs. And I think that really needs to be addressed. The universities need to be more involved in terms of the direction that companies are going in. And when you look on a country like Jamaica, where you're training more doctors than you can absorb, and the discussion is that, well, we're a training institution, that's where you have a big disconnect. Because you have to be training towards a market. You should be training a biochemist to be serving as an administrative assistant. You know, when you have certain jobs that require particular technical, scientific skills, so you have to have that connection. And you see some universities, not all, sticking to the straight academic training, while there are some institutions that are doing a blended approach. And those institutions in blended approach having greater success rates, the employment of their graduates.
Yeah, I think, I have kind of very similar experiences there. You know, one foot in academia, one foot in industry, and the partnership is definitely important. But whether it happens sufficiently to meet the needs of industry and to meet the needs of students is a totally other question, right? I think in theory, philosophically, we understand it should happen.
Ideally.
But, you know, Academics are not the easiest people to convince to do anything.
There you go.
And that's Dr. Riley right there. Right?
And I would actually suggest that we keep one eye on the globe, because especially in the creative industries, things are moving so fast that if I go to a corporate and say, what do you need? They don't know what they need. Because things are moving very, very quickly. And so we need to look at what are the future needs. So, you know, it can't just be a local conversation between our universities and our corporates, because the people you're speaking to in the corporates, with all due respect, may not know that what's next.
Yes.
So there's an element of research, of looking at global trends and trying to get to that next frontier. One of the things that we've really focused on is called Createch. Because we looked to the UK and we said, what is this Createch conference they're doing? And this was in 2017. And it was, they were looking at how technology had revolutionized the financial industries, and you suddenly had fintech, how it did the same for the medical industries, and now you have medtech. And they're saying, with Jamaica, with such a powerful culture, what if we use technology to leapfrog us to the frontier of what's happening?
Yes.
So in some of our training, we're doing training on NFTs. Now, there's no corporate asking us for NFT training right now, but that's what's next. So just keep one eye on the future would be all I would add to the conversation.
I like this discussion of, of partnership. And we have two financial institutions, the foundations represented here. And, if this were a panelist of educational institution, what may come up is money. We need money. We need money. Right? And partnership with private sector is usually along that line. How can we access resources within the private sector to help further or advance these activities? And the truth, the private sector is in the business of making money, right? How can schools find a more efficient way of engaging the private sector than just, we need some money to do something? We'll start with the two financial institutions they're found, because I'm sure you get that a lot, right?
Well, I think, though, that there are various areas that you can get involved with. For instance, we have the Joan Duncan School of Entrepreneurship, Ethics and Leadership at UTech, which is one of the first schools that did an entrepreneurial degree.
Yes.
For instance, at the Edna Manley School, the foundation does offer a scholarship for entrepreneurship in art. And in a very practical way, at the University of the West Indies, through the Mona School of Business and Management, we have partnered with them with their Vincent Hosang Venture Capital competition, which allows students to do business plans and pitches, with our interest being not the actual plan or pitch, but is that business now going to transition to being an actual business that is providing employment? So, and of course, those activities require funding, but we can see the long-term effect of being involved in those kinds of partnerships.
Yes, excellent. How about you, Tankito?
Sure. So I agree completely with Kim. There are so many other ways that you can engage private sector, and it may very much include and involve funding. However, there are opportunities for mentorship. There are opportunities for apprenticeships. There are opportunities for training and development. I know Barita currently has a program with the Mona School of Business where they're involved in the curriculum development and training. So those are tangible yet ways that don't require a significant amount of funding. So I think one of the primary things that academic institutions have to pay attention to is that you have to show how you're adding value. So even if you are going to get the funds at some point, you have to present in a very, very clear way just how the involvement of the corporate company in whatever you're proposing is going to add value to all involved. And that really just then opens up the conversation now, and we go back to collaboration and partnership, where now, the heads meet and we can be creative and innovative and come up with new ideas of how we can serve, together serve, the workforce, serve the society.
Yeah. Amiga, are you seeing best practices emerge, having a bird's eye view of the private sector? Are you seeing any best practices emerging resource mobilization within private sector to assist educational institutions?
Well, the best example I can speak to from a skills gap perspective, there's a sector skills council that has been set up for the global services industry. And they have a full support where they have a coordinator, and they're having that data coming through from the industry, which is fed into the High Trust NTA, so they know that the skills that they need to be training for, not just current, but as you would have alluded to, the future, and just moving up the higher value chain in that industry. So that sector skills council model is something that I think can be replicated for other industries. And I must say that the PSOJ is actually in dialogue with the PIOJ and the IDB to see how we can expand that initiative and take it across Jamaica.
Yeah. So Dr. Riley, from your very international perspective, and you and I both know the importance of academic and industry partnerships in financing R&D is essential, right, for something like biotechnology to even make any sense. Are you seeing like great examples of that happening locally versus what you might be seeing happening internationally?
You touch on a sword in a sense in terms of funding for R&D. And I think one of the challenges where R&D is so limited in financing, even in Jamaican space, is the application of that new knowledge that's generated in academic institutions to industry. And a lot of the work that's been done in universities, especially at the graduate level, is very abstract. It's really looking towards a philosophy, just proving a scientific point without much application in industry. And I think, Aisha, you and I have similar experiences in grad school. When you finish your doctoral program, you're just finished. There's just nowhere to apply to industry to reap any real value. But the model that we see at UTech is a bit different. And I think there's a stark difference between the model at UWI versus UTech, sorry, and the Northern Caribbean University, because a lot of the UTech-related graduate projects are financed by industry, especially in the engineering and the School of Computing and some of their architecture-related graduate degrees. They are financed by industry, and a lot of their programs have quite a bit of internship-type activities. So at the end of the day, the reality of the situation is, and one of the things we always talk about, whether it be undergraduates, graduate student, is how do you get a job if you have no experience? You know, so creating that linkage and allowing for internships and co-financing with education can make a major difference in the employability of our graduates afterwards, and how R&D is financed.
Yeah,
I wanted to touch on coordination though, because you know you spoke about coming for money, the other interventions that can be made. The PSOJ gets a lot of requests on both sides for the internship, the apprenticeship, and the money. But I would like just one place where I can, all the institutions can say to me, these are the people coming out, the different areas, these are the placements that I will require per parish. It makes, we need to structure it. I keep talking about a systematic approach to the problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Andrea, are you on that point? You know, you presented, I think, 6 examples of creatives. That Kingston Creative has served. Does Kingston Creative also serve a coordination role somehow within the industry? Is there a network between suppliers of talent and the users of such talent? Does Kingston Creative play that role, and what are the opportunities in that industry as you see?
So we do play a role as an umbrella body, because you will have your JARIA, which is your music institution, you'll have JAFTA, which is a film institution, you have JAN, which is your animation nation. So you have all of the different subsectors, and so Kingston Creative is, in essence, an umbrella body. And so what we have developed, and we'll be launching next month, is the Caribbean Creative Network. So it is a database that has creatives that are listed there. You can sort through, you can see their portfolios, see their skills, and hire them. Along with that, that thing that gives them visibility and gives them market access and makes it easy for an employer to say, hey, if I'm looking for an intern, let me look through and see who's looking for job opportunities. So on that, corporates can post jobs in the creative sector, And so creatives can look at the jobs that are posted and vice versa.
That's great. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And there's also one more program that is called Creative Link. So for this, we would really like to enlist the support of the PSOJ, not to put you on the spot. But we think, you know, when you made the point about how are they going to succeed if they have no experience and they don't know what real life work is like, if every corporate could hire a young person in their final year of school, give them some summer experience, I think that is the most valuable thing. When you develop talent like that, you know, they come out, they finish, and they know something about the working world. And so Creative Link it's really focused on community creatives, because we find a problem. It's easy to hire Kim's daughter or Kim's niece. We move in the same social circle. What happens at the community level? The people who are running the corporates are not moving in that social circle. So those children, bright as they may be, educated as they may be, may not get that opportunity. So Creative Link is matching corporates to young creatives, focusing on creatives from the 20 marginalized communities that surround downtown. So do look out for a little more information on both those programs.
And I can say yes already, because we
launched
Project Star. We launched Project Star, which is exactly talking about inclusive and equitable growth for people and our youths wherever you come from in Jamaica. No one should be excluded. And a big part of that is about economic transformation. And that includes giving them the opportunity to go into the workforce or helping them to become entrepreneurs.
So excellent.
We will talk offline. Awesome. Thank you.
Can mark this day that this is where it started. That's amazing. So there's a comment from Zoom that partnerships between private sector and educational institutions is key, which I think we've just established, and that if done properly, they can really provide a path to ensuring our youth are ready. As a spin-off on that comment for both foundations here, foundations clearly are becoming, may have always been, but certainly within our local context, are becoming very important and essential instruments in the development of our communities, in the connection between private sector and the needs, you know, whether it be in education, whether it be in entrepreneurship, whether it be in community development. What can the rest of us learn from that, the structure, that foundations that sit in these large corporations provide? What can we learn? What can academia learn about the use of foundations in helping to drive its own mandate? What can private sector that doesn't have foundations, what can they learn from your examples in trying to better serve?
I think the first thing is that we're all a part of one big world. We all exist we all share space. And so we all have a responsibility to, one, protect that space, to also be a part of shaping that space, and also be a part of, you know, pulling together the people that occupy that space. And that, I think, those three areas, I believe, foundations have really, we've really set this sort of tone to create, to work at creating the society that we all want, and we all have a role to play. I think academia can, Dr. Riley spoke to it earlier, or maybe it was you, Aisha, who spoke to just academia not being the easiest sector to kind of break in or break into, because, of course, you know, people in academia are bright and you know what's going on, and you theorize all that is happening and you have a full explanation, right? So it makes it very difficult. But I think what the role that foundations have been playing, and you know, with foundations becoming now almost a mandatory part of companies now, I think it shows again that we have to have conversations with each other. We have to make our contributions to the society that we live in. We have to listen to others, to hear their needs, and hearing their needs, work together to determine how we can address those needs. Yeah. So I think academia can learn by watching, looking, listening, and applying that same kind of approach to how, you know, how these institutions operate.
Excellent. Yeah.
But I would also want to add the fact that we should not lose sight of the fact that foundations especially corporate foundations, are really coming out of the organization's corporate social responsibility. So while being altruistic, it's also because the organizations also want to be able, they're giving and also getting back. So in offering scholarships per se, we are helping the individuals, and you read the scholarship applications, you know, first in their family to go to university. So you're helping that individual family, but then also to an educated workforce is going to be a more effective workforce. And I also want to say too that you need to know what your mission and vision is, and not get sidetracked, because you can't be everything to every person. So we focus on education and entrepreneurship. And so even when we are working in our communities, the projects we tend to focus on would be either education or entrepreneurship, have that at the base. So while you're working in your communities, you need to know what it is you want to achieve. What are the outcomes that you want when you start a project?
Excellent, excellent. We're going to move to something a little bit more personal now. We got a question online about the support you got when you were starting your careers. Right, and I know, and I know it might. I mean, certainly for me, it's something I just don't forget. Right, it's very important for me, and I'm sure it will be for you. But it's something that has emerged, and I think it's a very good way to connect with our audience. You know, there are probably a lot of young people looking on, and they see themselves somehow in us, but somewhere down the line. You know, we'll start with at the very end, and we'll make our way. What support did you get at the start of your career?
I can tell you what defined my career and what convinced me to move into the sciences. I always wanted to be a medical doctor. I emulated medical doctors growing up in the country, in St. Anne, going to high school, dissecting frogs and all those stuff. But I got a summer job at the Scientific Research Council in 1997, my first year at the university. When I started seeing plants growing from leaves, growing from stems, tissues being generated, I forgot all about medicine, decided I needed to do biotechnology. So a lot of times the experience that you get while involved in summer employment and internship can guide you to where you should be going and where your true passion is. Because sometimes you are passionate about something because of what you see on TV, but you don't know until you start experiencing it. And we had that type of mentorship and guidance from persons from the Scientific Research Council, the other Barnetts, some of the other persons who are there to say, you know what, continue biotechnology, explore that. Whenever you want to learn something new, feel free to come into the laboratories. That type of open approach has a lot to do with guiding one's career. And interestingly, full circle, another, call it 12 years later, I was in the institution. So it's a quite interesting experience.
Yes. Amigo.
Wonderful. I didn't know what I wanted to become. At one point, it was a flight attendant. At one point, it was a nun.
Oh!
I wanted to be an actress, and my mother told me, you're going to be broke.
There you go.
To Edna Manley, and they were calling me, where are you? But what I always believed in was being an all-rounded person. So when I was going to school in England, they allowed you to study everything. So I was studying religious education, ITC, sports education. So everything was almost open to me. But when I come back to Jamaica, it was like, you need to either go into sciences, or you need to do business. And I was like, why? I don't want to be a scientist. I don't want to do this. And I'm saying this, but unfortunately, I was I don't know what you'd call somebody like me, a delinquent at the time. But independent thinker. And I will say that I've had persons who never necessarily supported me or spoke positively to me, but my family was important. And they always believed in me and set a positive example. My grandmother used to do social work, and she was, you know, very involved in the community, and that's what I wanted to do. I said I was going to work at the UN and all of that. But you know where I'm really where I'm at today because I didn't want to go to school any longer. I did my first degree in political science, and I wanted to do my master's in social development. And the solicitors looked at me and said, well, you're going to have to go back and do some subject and stuff. And I said, no, what do you have available? Governance. And I did governance, and an opportunity came, and I was ready, and I moved on it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Andrea, 20 seconds. What inspired you? What support did you get?
Well, I think, first of all, Caribbean parents, stop telling your creative kids that they will starve.
Agreed, agreed.
The second thing is I also didn't know what I wanted to be. And, you know, but I was bright. And all the bright kids were doing sciences and engineering, so I just followed along. And I only learned by actually being in the field. So when I graduated and I got my engineering job, I realized I do not want to do this for the next 50 years. I am very clear. And so I went through career, then went to project management, then into business, then into entrepreneurship like my family. And so I think sometimes there's a lot of kids listening whose parents cannot guide them. Yeah. They do not have the knowledge. Right, they love them, they support them, but they can't really tell them which career path to take. And for me, I would say, you have many lives in one life. It is okay to switch.
Absolutely.
You're not a tree, you can move. You know, so I mean, I really would encourage people to not feel like you're a failure. Don't feel like any knowledge is ever wasted, because it all comes back around. I've done a lot of things, and here I am back in the arts, which is what I want to do in the first place.
Correct, that's so true. That's so true. We really go through seasons. So I'm a little older than a lot of you on the panel. And I did marketing at university and came back to do brand management with a liquor company. And so I was going down that path and met the director of Food for the Poor at the time, who invited me to go on this pilgrimage. And I said, why am I going to go on this kind of pilgrimage? You know, where they took you to the various projects that they were helping in Jamaica. So I said, oh, come on, I'll take some leave and I'll go. And it was a transforming experience for me because I mean, I was born in Jamaica, live in Jamaica, only went away for the 4 years for university. I mean, I figured I knew Jamaica, but the Jamaica I knew was the Dunn's River, the white sandy beaches, you know, and as much as having gone to Immaculate and having been exposed, you go to Salvation Army and all those kinds of things, I had not had that personal, touching, knowing, feeling, seeing experience. And I went and I quit my job and I went to Food for the Poor, and that was my entry into nonprofit. Awesome. And I consider myself now a nonprofit executive, having worked at the Cancer Society, you know, various places, but I tell people you go through seasons. And so every experience that you had adds to it. So my marketing experience has been invaluable in everything that I've done because you market everything. And I too did sciences. Why? Because you had to choose. You either do sciences or you do arts. And so I really want to encourage parents, you know, guardians, not to box your kids. Don't put them in this little box because there's just so much out there to do. The opportunities are limitless, but if we keep on saying you gotta to stay on the straight line, it's not true. There is not a straight line. There are many detours, curves. You come around, you make a mistake because I find the most growth has happened in those periods of mistake.
Yes. Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
Right.
Anika?
I think this is such a beautiful question because this is what these sessions are about, right? Really connecting with our young people. I've always wanted to do the kind of work that I do because I did not want to wear high heel shoes and tweed suits to work. And so I thought, what can I do that would allow me to be on the road and engage with people and really interact and get to know folks without having to dress up every day. And I also didn't want to work in New Kingston. I'm now smack dab in the middle of New Kingston, but I'm doing the work I want to do. And so I remember we spoke about soft skills earlier, and it's so important, young people. I remember my very first real full-time job when I went. I just saw it and I thought it was with the Social Development Commission. And I thought, oh great, this is somewhere I want to go because so many presentations were done. I spoke about how can you engage, different stakeholders. They'd come and do presentations, at UA. And I thought this is an organization I want to work with because it's kind of work that I'm interested in. And I didn't even look for all the requirements, right? And I went in and I did the interview. And as they were going through to tick the boxes and the HR questions came up and they're like, do you have this, you have that? I said, no. And they said, okay, but did you, this is the job you're applying for? And I said, yes. I said, yes, because, I love people. This is the kind I want to be in social development. And I remember, I'll never forget Mona Suho said, okay, what are we going to do with you? And I said, well, what do you have? I'm willing to work. They said, we don't have anything at that level. We have something at another level. And I said, that's fine. I'm just home. I'll do it. And they said, are you sure? And I said, yes. And I started in an administrative role. And I learned so much. I remember the first minutes I wrote, I literally wrote, Kim says XYZ. Andrea said. I remember my supervisor at the time said, okay, let me show you an example of minutes. And again, mentorship, coaching, and so on. I thought, oh, this is how you
on the job experience.
This is how you write minutes. And so I just want to encourage our young people that, do not be afraid to ask for what you want. Once you're clear in your mind where your passion lies, and also, just be very open with employers in terms of, what you are capable of, what your competencies are, and employers, obviously, be open to working with young people because you can never tell who you may be inspiring and who you may be helping to build.
For sure. Amazing. Thank you so much. I think this was a phenomenal last set of questions. Discussions. I think it was amazing. And if nothing else, I've certainly learned, not because you did sciences, you have to remain a scientist.
Right.
Thank you so much. And I hope this evening's session was insightful for our training institutions and, the very least inspirational for the students that are joining us. And, this panel, clearly shows that there are so many opportunities ahead of you. And as mentioned before, I'll go ahead and quote again that the youth can be ready for tomorrow. So on behalf of Team USAID and Advance, as organizers of this event, I would like to extend a strong appreciation for all our speakers and panelists today who took the time out to inspire young people and to have these detailed discussions today. And to all our viewers at home or at work or at school, thank you for your time and for your questions and comments in making work readiness industry conversations on workforce development a successful learning forum. The discussion does not end here. The work does not end here. We encourage you to keep up to date with similar programs. You would have heard from several panelists and their organizations and the contributions that they make to work readiness, and we hope that you will continue to share in those discussions and to explore those opportunities via the website and via social media. Of course, please follow Advance and visit the website advanceprogram.org for all additional events to come. I wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you.